Have you ever delved deeply into your thoughts, examining and embracing them, and found peace within yourself? Have you asked yourself what is the purpose of your life, why you were born, and the reasoning behind your actions and decisions?
I had some answers, but I don't think that they would align with your expectations. Rather than appearing a fool, I humbly request you to share your wisdom instead.
The answer to the lifelong search of many is expansion. Even after spending a lifetime seeking the answer, people often still feel unfulfilled and hollow, as if they have not accomplished what they were meant to.
Expansion.
Yes, the universe is always expanding, and everything in it is also expanding, whether it is knowledge, love, wealth, power, or influence. It is an endless pursuit, a never-ending journey. And it is the same for every living being. We are all here to expand, to grow, to learn, to develop, and to make a difference. The key is to find what you want to expand in your life and work towards it with determination and purpose.
What happens if something is not expanding?
That would suggest that it is working against life and will eventually perish.
And I thought humans are merely pawns in a divine game played by higher powers for their entertainment.
You know why I am telling you all this?
Part of another class.
Your father has asked me to tell you your purpose, which is to expand this kingdom. Now after this class you go to your father, as he wants to share something with you. I am also leaving for the jungle to get some herbs for your father.
Alright, Acharya ji.
After inquiring about his father's whereabouts, Prince Shiva hurriedly made his way to his father's chambers, where Prithvi, Shiva's father, was already waiting for him.
Father, Acharya ji said that you want to tell me something.
Shiva, my son, there is a tale I must share with you. A tale that reaches back to the very origins of our family. Our journey begins with my great-grandfather Bharat. He was a humble man, one who served a priest in a distant village. This priest was no ordinary holy man. His wisdom held secrets that transcended time itself. At the end of his life, this priest recognized our ancestors' unwavering service. In gratitude, he gifted him something of immense value, the very weapons wielded by Karan, the legendary warrior of the Mahabharata. His sword, bow and arrow, and his spears.
Karna's weapons, father? These are the tools of legends.
Indeed. With these sacred weapons, my great-grandfather transformed from a humble man into a fearsome soldier. His son, my grandfather, Kishan, became a general of unmatched prowess, leading our kingdom's armies to victory. And then, your grandfather, Dev, seized the throne, rising from the ranks of the army to rule with wisdom and strength. The legacy of power and honor continued through the generations until it was my turn to bear the mantle. Shiva, my time as ruler is drawing to a close. I have expanded our kingdom to the rivers Ravi and Bias, but my health falters now. The burden of our lineage must be passed on to you, along with the charge of expanding our dominion.
Father, nothing is wrong with your health and this fever will subside soon.
I know, my son, but it's your time now to take our legacy forward. From the Sindhu to the Saraswati, I entrust you to expand our realm to the Sapta-sindhu region.
Prithvi's eyes shone with a mixture of emotions as he carefully retrieved a crafted wooden chest from beneath his bed. With deliberate reverence, he opened it, revealing the gleaming weapons that had been a part of their family's journey through history.
I shall honor our legacy, father. With these sacred weapons, I will lead our kingdom to new horizons, extending our dominion as far as the rivers flow.
Now I am going to give you the shield that will protect you from any sword, spear and arrow, Prithvi said, and closed his eyes. Lord Krishna, with my whole heart I trust my son and gift my shield to him. Did you feel it?
Yes, father. I will go and show these to Vikram.
As you wish. Shiva watched with awe as his brother Vikram exhibited his remarkable fighting skills. Vikram wielded 2 swords with ease, one in each hand, a feat that most men found challenging. Unlike other fighters, Vikram preferred to forego using a shield, instead relying solely on his quick reflexes and nimble footwork. What impressed Shiva the most was Vikram's swiftness. He could dodge his opponent's attacks with effortless ease, and counterattack before they could even think of defending themselves. He had a unique fighting style that involved jumping while attacking, which initially worked to his advantage. However, General Ram, with whom Vikram was fighting, quickly caught on to his predictable pattern and struck him hard with a shield while he was still in midair. Vikram fell to the ground but quickly got up, only to find the opponent's sword already at his neck. After the fight, Shiva approached his brother and advised him to be more cautious about his fighting technique.
You don't need to jump every time you attack, and you need to change your pattern if your enemy hasn't been hurt in the first few moves.
Vikram nodded, acknowledging his mistake, and congratulated the winner.
Father has given me these weapons and asked me to go on a journey to expand the kingdom.
These are spectacular.
Will you join me on this journey?
I surely will.
2 years passed since Prithvi had sent his sons, Shiva and Vikram, for the first time on a mission to expand their kingdom. Shiva had proven himself to be a formidable leader and warrior, winning province after province through fierce battles and cunning strategies with the help of his brother. As they marched towards River Saraswati after winning the Battle of River Sindhu with their army, Shiva couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in all that he had accomplished. Shiva planned to take some much-needed rest and spend time with his family after defeating King Shatru, ruler of Saraswati. Shiva wanted to cherish the accomplishments he had made and bask in the love of his family, which he had sorely missed during his years of battle. As Shiva's caravan moved confidently, they were a cheerful bunch, filled with the satisfaction of their recent victory. Their thoughts were consumed with the joys of winning. As they moved forward, little did they know about the magical army of King Shatru. Immortals King Shatru used to call them, as they all looked exact replica of each other and were gifted to King Shatru by Lord Indra, because he performed Indrayagna 50 times. The ground trembled with the thundering hooves of galloping horses and the pounding of men's feet as Shiva and his army of 100,000 men charged towards their enemy. When the clash began, Shiva led his soldiers in a frontal charge, successfully taking down many of the immortals. Ram, Shiva's general, leading a group of 20,000 soldiers, attacked the immortals from behind, hoping to divide the immortals' army into smaller groups. Shiva's army was confident in their plan, but they soon realized that the battle would be much tougher than they assumed. As the battle raged on, a little behind Shiva, his brother Vikram had just killed one immortal with the help of 3 more soldiers. Now, they were struggling to kill the next one. However, Shiva, as a skilled warrior, used to kill 10 immortals for every one of his men taken by the enemy. Recognizing Shiva as the head of the army, the immortals devised a plan to kill him. 1,000 of them circled him, hoping to overwhelm him with their sheer numbers. But Shiva was not one to back down from a fight, and he fought bravely against the swarming immortals. Even though he had already slain over 100 of them, he found himself surrounded and unable to see any of his own soldiers. With his sword in hand, Shiva fought for his life against the immortals who had surrounded him. One of the immortals spoke to him, offering him a chance to surrender and live. The immortals then removed their helmets one by one, revealing that they were all identical in appearance. As the immortals removed their helmets, Shiva was shocked to see 1,000 men who looked exactly alike. Taking a deep breath, Shiva began riding in circles, slashing the immortals with his sword and reducing their numbers vigorously. He was fast, darting around the immortals with lightning speed and cutting them down one by one. They tried to attack him, but it was of no use. Despite the odds against him, Shiva fought with all his might. The battlefield was a gruesome sight, with blood seeping into the ground and the lifeless bodies of soldiers and horses scattered all around. Shiva, who had just killed 1,000 immortals single-handedly, stood tall in the chaos, his sword and armor covered in the blood of his enemies. He looked around, hoping to find his younger brother Vikram nearby, but there was no sign of him. Taking a moment to gather himself, Shiva rode towards the spot where his brother was fighting. "Have you seen my brother?" Shiva asked a group of his soldiers who were fighting at that spot after killing an immortal whom they had been struggling to defeat. "No, my king," one of them replied. "But he was fighting alongside you?" Shiva asked. "Yes, but then we got separated," the soldier replied. Shiva moved from group to group, his horse jumping over the bodies of the fallen, asking everyone if they had seen his brother, but nobody had any information. As he continued to search, Shiva killed every immortal who was still standing, ensuring that none of them posed a threat to his army. However, he couldn't shake off the feeling of dread in his heart, as he could not locate his younger brother. Finally, one soldier from his army approached him with a heavy heart. "My king, I have heard that you are looking for your brother," the soldier asked, approaching Shiva. "Yes, where is he?" Shiva asked urgently. "I am sorry, my king, but the young prince died fighting the enemy. We have killed the man whose sword cut his throat, but before we could help him, he had already lost a lot of blood and passed away," the soldier replied, his eyes filled with tears. "Can you take me to my brother?" Shiva asked the soldier who had brought the news of his brother's death. The soldier nodded and led Shiva's horse in the direction where they had laid Vikram's lifeless body. Upon reaching the spot, Shiva dismounted his horse and walked towards Vikram's corpse. He knelt down and stared at him for a long time, feeling the weight of grief and guilt on his shoulders. "I shouldn't have asked you to join me in this journey. What am I going to tell our mother now?" Shiva said, his voice choked with emotion. "How can I keep my empire safe if I couldn't even save my brother?" Shiva's tears flowed down his face, and he couldn't bear to look at his brother's blood-soaked body any longer. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath, trying to calm himself. The soldier who had brought him there stood a few feet away, giving him privacy to mourn. Shiva knew he couldn't change the past, but he felt responsible for his brother's death. He had asked him to join him in the Odyssey. As Shiva knelt there, he couldn't help but feel overwhelmed by the memories flooding back to him. He remembered the days of their childhood when they had no worries or responsibilities, and they would spend endless hours playing together. His brother had been his closest confidant, always there to lend an ear or offer a helping hand. They had shared everything from secrets to toys. Shiva's eyes fluttered open as he stared at Vikram's lifeless body. His heart ached with the realization that he could never talk to him, laugh with him, or confide in him. The thought of their unfulfilled dreams and promises made him feel helpless and guilty. He wished he could turn back time and undo his mistakes, but it was too late. "My king," General Ram said, who also came after hearing the news of Vikram's death. He consoled Shiva, reminding him of the people who still needed him, the army that still needed his leadership, bringing back Shiva from his memories. Shiva looked around and saw the devastation caused by the battle, piles of bodies, horses without riders, and blood everywhere. Shiva took a deep breath and stood up, wiping his tears with the back of his hand. He saw his soldiers still fighting and struggling. "Gather all our men and let us finish this," Shiva commanded General Ram. General Ram nodded and went to gather the men while Shiva rode toward where his soldiers were struggling against the enemy. As they saw their king fighting alongside them, they charged forward, emboldened by his presence, and soon they overpowered the enemy. Shiva fought with all his might, his sword flashing in the sunlight. At the sunset, the battle was finally over. As the war resounded across the battlefield, the acrid smell of blood permeated the air. The sun, a distant witness to the carnage now descending on the horizon, cast long shadows over the grim tableau of death and destruction. Vultures circled overhead, their dark silhouettes against the dusky sky foretelling the feast that awaited them. The battle was fierce, and Shiva had never seen so much bloodshed in his life. Despite their victory, it was a bittersweet moment, as they had lost so many men, including Vikram. Shiva went back to his brother's body, surrounded by his men. He was still in a state of shock, wondering what was to come next. The battle had taken a heavy toll on Shiva's army, with only 25,000 out of the 100,000 soldiers returning from the fight. The sight of Vikram's lifeless body drenched in blood shattered the idea of a perfect world that Shiva had held onto for so long. When Shiva looked at the surrounding carnage, he realized he couldn't build a better world by stepping on the dead bodies. The path he was following, the fight he was waging, and the destination he wanted to reach all seemed like an illusion. It was a painful realization for Shiva. He realized that the purpose of his life is not to expand his kingdom to unknown boundaries, but to bring peace to the empire he had built so far, as there is no end to greed. The purpose of his life is to give people a life where they could do what they wanted. They could live as they wanted in peace and harmony without hurting each other. To give a life where people could have enough food for their families, clean water to drink without any discrimination, and a shelter over their head to sleep. "What is the order, my king?" asked General Ram, breaking Shiva's thoughts. "A lot of good men died today, fighting for their pride, for their kings. We need to give them a proper funeral. A funeral which the brave souls of those men deserve," Shiva said with a heavy heart. General Ram nodded in agreement and waited for a moment before speaking again. "My king, what about your brother?" Shiva was lost in his own world of grief and guilt. "Should I take his body for the funeral?" General Ram asked, pointing towards Vikram's dead body. Shiva could not comprehend the loss he had just faced. "I never thought I would lose him," Shiva said, tears flowing down his cheeks. General Ram tried to console him, "But he also believed in you, believed that you are the perfect person to rule this country. You are the one who can give justice to others. It was his dream too. I think you should not lose hope, and if it helps, then you should try to fulfill his dream." Shiva's eyes were filled with tears, and he was worried about how he would break the news to his parents. "I want to take his body home. You preserve Vikram's body and prepare for the funeral of others," Shiva said, dismissing General Ram. As General Ram left, Shiva stood there alone, lost in his thoughts, thinking about the purpose of his life.